If you've ever come back from a break more tired than before, you already know the uncomfortable truth. Burnout doesn't care about your calendar. You can take a weekend off, you can take a week off, you can fly somewhere sunny and post the proof, and still feel that same heavy, buzzing exhaustion in your chest when you open your laptop again. Meanwhile, high in the Tibetan plateau, thin air, brutal cold, routines that look almost boring from the outside. There are monks who live under constant constraints, wake before dawn, do hours of practice, study, work, and yet they don't collapse the way modern people do. Not because they're superhuman, not because they have magical genes, and not because they're secretly on some ancient supplement stack. It's because their entire day is built around one hidden mechanism most modern lives accidentally destroy. And once you see it, you can copy it without becoming a monk, without quitting your job, and without taking a vacation you can't afford. Here's the mystery. When modern people say, "I need a break," what they often mean is, "I need to escape." But escape is not recovery. Escape is just distance. Recovery is a switch that flips inside your nervous system, and most of us never flip it. So we keep dragging ourselves forward on emergency power, and we call it discipline. Now, before we go any further, try something with me that will take less than a minute, and it'll tell you whether you've been living on emergency power. Sit still. Unclench your jaw. Let your shoulders fall an inch. Breathe in through your nose for a normal breath. Then exhale slowly through your nose or pursed lips and make the exhale longer than the inhale. Do that again. On the third exhale, see if you can make it quiet, like you're fogging a mirror without actually fogging it. If your chest feels tight, if your breath catches, if your body insists on speed, that's not you. That's a stuck system. Your body is acting like it's under threat, even if the threat is just 20 tabs, 3 notifications, and a life that never truly ends. Tibetan monasteries don't avoid burnout by taking more time off. They avoid it by never letting the system get stuck in the first place. And the first clue is how they start a day when the world is still black. Picture it. Pre-dawn. The stone floor is cold enough to bite through thin sandals. The air is dry. The sky is a deep, hard blue. And the monastery is quiet in a way that feels like pressure. A bell or a low horn cuts the silence. Not a frantic alarm, not a song designed to spike your dopamine, just a signal. Bodies rise. The day begins the same way it began yesterday. Not because they're trapped, but because rhythm is protection. In the modern world, we think variety equals freedom and routine equals prison. But for your nervous system, unstable rhythm is a threat. It's like living in a house where the lights flicker randomly. You never relax. The monks understood, in practical terms, that the body doesn't recover when it is constantly negotiating what happens next. So they reduce negotiation. They remove the tiny daily battles that drain you long before the big stress shows up. That's the first mechanism. Decision friction quietly burns your fuel. Imagine your mind as a phone battery. Everyone talks about the big apps, work, deadlines, conflict, but the real drain is the background processes you never close. Should I check email now? Should I skip breakfast? Should I work out later? Should I answer that message? Should I scroll for a minute? That constant micro-negotiation keeps you in low-grade vigilance. In a monastery, the environment closes those loops. The day is already decided, so the body stops bracing.
The modern world gets this wrong by worshiping flexibility while living in a state of constant open-endedness. The quick home test is simple. Look at the first 10 minutes after you wake up. If you immediately start deciding phone, coffee, news, schedule, messages, you're paying a tax before you've even stood up fully. If you want a 60-second fix right now, Do this tomorrow. Place your phone outside the bedroom or across the room, and before you touch anything digital, do 1 minute of a single repetitive action that tells your body nothing is hunting you. It can be slow nasal breathing while standing at a window. It can be washing your face with cool water deliberately without rushing. It can be making your bed slowly. The content doesn't matter as much as the signal. 1 minute of monotony without choice. The monastery level upgrade is to lock the first 15 minutes into a script you never negotiate. Same order every day. Bathroom, water, light. 1 quiet minute, then begin. Tools needed: a glass of water prepared the night before, a timer, and physical distance from your phone. The most common mistake is making the ritual complicated, then skipping it, then blaming yourself. Keep it stupidly small. And here's the rehook you need. Even if you master the morning, burnout will still find you if you keep one modern habit that monks never allow, not because it's sinful, but because it breaks the recovery switch every single day. Hold that thought. Now let's move deeper into why they can work hard without frying. People imagine monks living in calm, but Tibetan life is not a spa. There is cold, there is altitude, there is physical labor, there is discipline. The difference is that their effort comes in pulses, not in one endless smear. In modern life, we stretch on time until it becomes the whole day. You wake up and you're already on. You eat while on. You rest while on, because your phone is a portal for other people's needs. You go to bed on, and then you wonder why sleep doesn't repair you. Tibetan monastic routines protect clear boundaries between states. Not boundaries like I won't answer email after 6, which is nice but fragile. Boundaries inside the body. That's the second mechanism. They repeatedly downshift the nervous system on purpose, many times a day, in small doses, so it never accumulates into a crisis. Think of it like pressure in a pipe. If you never release pressure, you don't need a vacation. You need a rupture. Monks release pressure before it becomes dangerous. One ancient anchor scene makes this obvious. After chanting or study, there is a shift. Tea, silence, walking, simple tasks, and the pace changes. The body learns. Effort ends. Modern people rarely teach the body that effort ends because we blur everything. We send one more email while eating. We relax with a show while checking messages. We sit on the couch with our jaw clenched. Here's a quick home test that will expose it. Right now, stop reading for 5 seconds and notice your tongue. Is it pressed to the roof of your mouth? Are your teeth touching? Is your forehead tight? If yes, you're doing rest with the posture of war. That's not rest. The 60-second fix is called the jaw drop, long exhale, soft eyes reset. Drop your jaw slightly so your teeth separate. Exhale longer than you inhale 3 times, and soften your gaze as if you're looking at the horizon, not at a target. You should notice your heart rate settle and your shoulders lower without effort. If you fail, if it feels impossible, it means your system has forgotten how to exit threat mode. That's not a moral failure, it's a training issue. The monastery upgrade version is to schedule micro downshifts that are not entertainment, not scrolling, not news, not just one video. Actual downshift. 2 minutes every hour or 2. Stand, look far away, breathe quietly through your nose, and let your face relax. Tools needed: a timer or a watch, and one boundary: no phone in the downshift. The common mistake is using breaks as stimulation. You call it a break, but you feed your brain more input, more comparison, more urgency. And now the modern trap appears. This is the thing monks don't allow, the thing that ruins the whole system even if you copy everything else. They don't use recovery time to flood the brain with novelty. Modern life sells you recovery as treat yourself with more stimulation, more content, more sugar, more caffeine, more dopamine, more travel, more everything.
The trick is that stimulation feels like relief because it distracts you from your internal tension, but it doesn't discharge the tension. It covers it with noise. You can detect this fast with one question. After your rest, do you feel quieter inside, or do you feel temporarily entertained but still tight? If you feel wired, if your mind is busy, if your body is tense, you didn't recover, you just changed the channel. Here's the clean rule monks live by, and it's almost offensive in its simplicity. If it spikes you, it's not recovery. That includes doom scrolling, heated debates, intense workouts done in anger, late-night thrill content, and even productive planning spirals. Recovery is anything that returns you to baseline. The protocol upgrade is to create two kinds of breaks: discharge breaks and joy breaks. Discharge breaks are quiet and boring by design. Breath, walking, sunlight, simple chores, tea, stretching, silence. Joy breaks are fun, but they're timed and clean. They don't bleed into your sleep, and they don't come with your phone glued to your palm. Most people invert these. They never discharge, they only distract, and then they need a vacation like a drowning person needs air. Keep listening, because now we're going to translate this into a step-by-step method you can run in a normal modern life, and I'll tell you exactly what should change in 10 minutes, in 24 hours, and in 7 days, plus what to do if you hit the common fail points. Before the steps, understand one more piece of why Tibetan monks don't burn out. They protect two gates. The first gate is the gate of attention. The second is the gate of sleep. Modern systems attack both and then blame you for collapsing. In monasteries, attention is trained like a muscle, but not with hype, with repetition, with one-pointedness. When you do one thing at a time, you stop leaking energy. When you do 3 things at a time, you create inner noise that feels like busy, but is actually friction. The modern world gets this wrong by praising multitasking and constant availability, then acting shocked when people feel hollow. And sleep? This is the brutal truth. Sleep is not negotiable if you want a nervous system that doesn't fry. Monks often live with early rising, but they also live with early winding down. Darkness cues, quiet cues, fewer inputs. Their evenings are not designed to create adrenaline. So here is the method, clean and practical, that copies the structure of their day without requiring you to live in a monastery. Step 1. Protect the first 10 minutes after waking like it's sacred, even if you're not a spiritual person. No phone, no news, no messages. Water first, light second, quiet third. Stand by a window or step outside for at least 1 minute of daylight, even if it's cloudy. Breathe through your nose slowly.
This is not self-help fluff. Light timing affects your circadian rhythm, and nasal breathing reduces the sense of threat in the body. If you do only this, you'll already start to feel the first win. Less morning dread, less immediate urgency. Step 2. Turn your day into pulses. Pick 2 or 3 work blocks where you are fully on, and between them, you do a 2-minute discharge break that is deliberately boring. Set a timer if you have to. In the discharge break, do not touch your phone. Stand, look far away. 3 long exhales, shoulders down. If you want a physical anchor, make tea and drink it slowly without scrolling. The goal is not pleasure, the goal is downshift. In 10 minutes, you should notice your mind becoming less jumpy. If you feel impatient, that's the addiction talking. Let it be there and keep breathing. Step 3. Set a hard boundary on the attention gate. This is the part most people hate because it reveals the real cause. Choose one window in the day when you check messages and feeds and keep it contained. You don't need to become a hermit. You need to stop bleeding attention all day long. The simple rule: no grazing. You don't snack on information. You eat it in a meal. If your job requires responsiveness, you can still do this by batching. Check every hour, not every 5 minutes. This alone can cut the background anxiety that masquerades as motivation. Step 4. Protect the sleep gate with an evening downshift ritual that is the opposite of modern culture. 90 minutes before bed,
Reduce bright light and high stimulation content. If that feels unrealistic, start with 30 minutes, then extend. Replace it with something low stimulus, a shower, stretching, reading something calm, preparing tomorrow's clothes, tidying one small area. Monks don't wind down with 1,000 flashing screens. They wind down with repetition and quiet. In 24 hours, you should notice falling asleep a little faster and waking less tense. Step 5. Introduce one daily no-negotiation anchor that tells your body it is safe even when life is hard. This can be a short walk after your main meal. It can be 10 minutes of slow physical work, cleaning, cooking, folding laundry, done as one thing, not while half living online. It can be a simple breathing practice. Inhale 4, exhale 6 for 5 minutes. The point is not perfection. The point is proving to your nervous system daily that effort ends and safety exists. In 7 days, you should feel a different kind of energy, not manic energy, but stable energy. You should feel less reactive to small stressors. You should stop needing giant escapes just to feel normal. Now, what to expect specifically? In 10 minutes of running the discharge breaks and the long exhales, you should feel your shoulders drop, your jaw soften, and the inner buzzing reduce. In 24 hours, you should notice you're less compulsive about checking things, and your sleep should feel slightly more restorative, even if your total sleep time doesn't change. In 7 days, you should notice a lower baseline anxiety, fewer crash moments in the afternoon, and a stronger ability to do focused work without feeling like your brain is overheating. But life is messy, so here are fail-safes, because if you're burned out, you don't need shame, you need a safety rail. If you try the breathing and you feel lightheaded, stop and return to normal breathing. Don't force long holds. Don't turn it into a performance. If you reduce evening stimulation and you feel restless, don't fight it by grabbing your phone. Do a low-stimulus body action instead, like stretching or a slow walk in your room. If your work demands constant response, don't pretend it doesn't. Just pick the smallest boundary you can enforce, like checking messages at the top of the hour and keeping everything else closed. If your breaks keep turning into scrolling, physically separate your phone from your body. Put it in another room, put it in a drawer. Turn the break into something with your hands, tea, water, a short walk, because hands change the brain. And if what you're experiencing is severe, persistent insomnia, panic, hopelessness, or a level of exhaustion that feels dangerous, please treat that as real and get professional support. Copying monk routines is not a substitute for medical care when you're in deep trouble. Now let's tie it back to the title, because this is the final truth. Tibetan monks don't avoid burnout by escaping their lives. They build lives you don't need to escape from. They don't depend on vacations to recover, because recovery is woven into the day through rhythm, reduced negotiation, attention boundaries, and repeated downshifts that keep the nervous system from getting stuck. The modern world is designed to keep you slightly threatened, slightly behind, slightly reachable, and slightly overstimulated, because that state makes you consume. Monks don't win by being mystical. They win by refusing to live in permanent low-grade emergency. So here's your recap in 5 clean lines, and listen to how physical it is. Reduce morning negotiations so your body stops bracing. Downshift on purpose in small, boring breaks so pressure never builds. Stop using stimulation as rest because it doesn't discharge tension. Protect your attention gate so you stop leaking energy all day. Protect your sleep gate so your body actually repairs at night. And here's the final truth you can carry into tomorrow. Burnout isn't a sign you're weak. It's often a sign your environment has stolen your off switch and convinced you it's your fault. Take the off switch back, and you won't need to run away to feel human again. If you want more monk-tested routines that actually work in modern homes, subscribe to Western Monk. Send this to someone who keeps fixing it with modern products and still can't solve it.